Today on the LA Food Podcast, I'm your host, Lucas Servodio, and it's time to pack your knives and go because another season of Top Chef is in the books. It's over, dear listener. Season 20, the first ever Top Chef World All-Stars and the last season featuring the incomparable Padma Lakshmi has concluded. A champion has been crowned. I'm joined by friend of the pod, Daniel Wargo of Forking Around social media fame to break down the epic finale to a truly special season. If you're trying to avoid spoilers, this is not the episode for you, but if you want to relive one of the greatest finales in Top Chef history with a side of spicy takes and heartfelt reminiscing, then you've come to the right place. This episode is entirely about the finale. We'll be back next week with a full season post-mortem featuring Father Saul. That is, of course, contingent on Father Saul still being alive after what I can only imagine will be an irresponsible celebration in the wake of his resounding Top Chef fantasy victory. Congrats, buddy. I'll get you next year. Without further ado, let's chow down. I am stoked to be joined by friend of the pod, the legendary Daniel Wargo, who you might know on social media as Forking Around. Daniel, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Dude, a lot has changed since your first appearance on the podcast.
I
first
know.
of all, you're the first repeat guest apart from my co-host Father Saul. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Second of all, you now have your face attached to a bowl of like teriyaki chicken. Is that right?
It's beef. It's like a hibachi beef bowl. Yeah.
There you go. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was my bad. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, it's a bowl called the Daniel Bocce spicy beef teriyaki bowl. It's from a place called Henbachi Grill, which is essentially like a cloud kitchen outside of two locations, one in Woodland Hills, which is where I'm based, and then the other is in Anaheim. And it's like you can get it, like you can walk in and get it, or you can order it on delivery apps and all that.
I think this means you've made it, right?
I guess so. You know, some people, like I said, some people have libraries. I have a bowl, you know?
It's got me thinking, what is the food item I most want my face attached to? And I'm still on the fence, but probably some sort of pizza probably would be the best.
I feel like that.
Yeah,
I would buy that pizza in a heartbeat.
Yeah, good to know. So if any of my pizza friends are listening out there, put my face on a pizza and, I'll agree to it. So we can call it.
I love that idea.
And I'll just call it the Luca Bocce just to mess with you.
Just to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
All right. Look, we're here. Enough with the niceties. Okay. We're here to talk about Top Chef season finale. It was an epic season in London, World All-Stars, truly one of a kind. And I have to say, I think that tonight's finale lived up to the quality of the season. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was obviously the whole season has been kind of like a step above the normal seasons. It feels like it almost feels like they're consistently going like that, where they're consistently better and better, but adding all of these stars from, around the world and these chefs from around the world really just changed the game. And tonight's episode was no shortage of amazing culinary skill and food and all that.
So going in, who was your money on?
I had my money on Buddha, to be honest, because I figured, he's the freshest. He just is coming out of it, and he won. So I figured, he's gonna be in great shape. We already know he has like immense skill, technical skill, and from last season. So I just kind of thought like he's the strongest. And obviously I didn't know all the other chefs, like from the different.
Right.
So there was some wild cards there, but I felt like out of the American ones, I was like, it's gotta be Buddha.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, he was the favorite, right? He was the, the Denver Nuggets, the Manchester City, like he was, I think he was the safe bet as far as money goes. I think that the way they were editing the show recently, I was almost thinking, oh my God, is Gabri going to win?
I thought so too.
Usually when you're getting that hero edit that has a ton of the personal background, it could be a sign that big things are in store for you.
Totally.
spoiler alert, dear listener, Buddha did end up winning. We're gonna recount right now how that actually went down. But first of all, in terms of Buddha's competitors, there was Gabri and Sarah Bradley, my girl
Hmm.
from Kentucky, who came
Hmm.
back from Last Chance Kitchen. Were you surprised to see any of these three competitors in the final?
No, not really. I mean, I think it's always kind of a surprise when someone comes back from Last Chance Kitchen and then not only, I mean, they always come back, but come back and dominate is not,
Yeah,
it's happened before, but it doesn't happen always.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I was a little bit surprised that, just to get your bearings again, and feel the fire as opposed to just, kind of letting it burn out.
She probably benefited from the fact that she wasn't out of the competition for too long. I think she was eliminated, went to Last Chance Kitchen, and then came
Came
back
right back.
right away. So I don't think she lost
Totally.
that rhythm, because that's a great point. But there is
Yeah.
something special when someone who is eliminated and then goes to Last Chance Kitchen comes back and wreaks havoc.
Yeah.
That's an awesome aspect of
It's
this show.
totally. I love when that happens. And I know it's happened at least once with Kristen, and there's another, I
Yeah.
think maybe twice it's happened. I don't know. I don't know the stats on that.
Definitely getting to the finale, but I think Kristen Kish of the Seattle season is probably the most
Hmm.
famous example of someone who went to Last Chance Kitchen, came back. At that time, I think they came back right at the end and went
Yes.
on to win. Kind of
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Yeah.
But
That was crazy.
one of the first things they get to do during the finale is, so the challenge for a finale is to cook a 4-course progressive meal.
Hmm.
And obviously, that's a lot for one chef to do. So they get to choose a sous chef. They bring back the 3 most recently eliminated chefs, and the contestants draw knives. And in the order that they draw the knives, they select their sous chefs. Now, in this particular case, Sarah drew the first knife. Um, Gabri drew the second one, and Buddha drew the third one. So Buddha
Hmm.
was at a little bit of a disadvantage. The chefs they brought back as sous chef candidates were Ali, the most handsome man to ever be on Top Chef;
Right.
Amar, the least handsome man to ever be on Top Chef. Just kidding. No hate to Amar. Um, and three, they brought back Tom, my boy Tom,
Tom. Yeah.
the angry German who cooks at sea. With the first pick in the draft, Sarah selected Amar.
Hmm.
Second pick, Gabri selected Tom because they're homies. And
Yeah.
third pick, Buddha got Ali. What did you think of that order? Who would you have picked first?
Honestly, I would have, if I had first pick, I probably would have gone with Ali,
Yeah,
just because, yeah, he was clearly a competitor. And so, and you can tell his work ethic is like top notch,
yeah.
he's just going to do it. Whereas, like, I'd be a little bit scared with Tom. Oh, sorry, that's my dog
Aw,
joining the
that's sweet.
podcast.
What's their name?
He's, his name is Sherman.
Oh, he's a he him.
He's a he, him. Yeah. Sherman, come on. I brought his bed over here so he would try to stay calm, but he heard someone outside. So that's what we
Or
get.
he's just celebrating Buddha's win. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes of the entire episode, was
Mhm.
Gabri letting Ali slip. No
Yeah.
disrespect to Tom, but Ali was one of the chefs that performed the best the entire show. And
Hmm.
my co-host and I, Father Saw, we did Fantasy Top Chef, right? And on the Fantasy Top Chef board, Ali was the dude who got the most points. I mean,
Wow.
clearly these contestants weren't looking at the stats.
Right. Yeah. Seriously, they were not as well. I think Sarah had that little book. Remember, they showed
Mm,
in, not in this episode, but in an episode before, where she was like, "This is who won," and she should have. I mean, although I think Amar might have been the right choice for her.
yeah. Her rationale
Uh,
made sense. She said, like,
yes.
he cooks with big flavors. I
Hmm.
tend to gravitate towards big flavors. Also, I mean, when you're picking a sous chef, you also want to pick somebody you can work with, who can handle
Yeah.
tasks. And Amar seems like the kind of guy who can put his head down and get to work.
Yeah. Totally. it kind of, everyone made sense with where they went. Like I was not
Yeah,
surprised to see Gabri pick Tom, obviously because they've been tight the whole season, and Sarah made sense with Lamar, and Buddha. I think had he had first pick, he would have ended up with the same choice.
100%. Because Buddha is a competitor and he's strategic.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'm sure if anybody knew the stats, it was Buddha. The next
Yes.
step of the finale is basically to run your sous chef through your meal concept. And,
Hmm.
typically these are not concepts that they come up with on the fly. These are most likely concepts that have been in the chef's heads for some time, because if you make it to the finale, you've got to be ready to cook the best meal you have ever cooked. The concepts were Buddha wanted to depart from what he did on the last season, which he won in Houston.
Hmm.
That one was all about his family, I believe, and his late dad.
Hmm.
There was a
Yeah.
very personal touch to that, right? His dad had just
Hmm.
passed away. He's the guy who
Right.
taught him how to cook, and he centered his whole meal. And his concept this time was, I'm not going to do this one for my family or for my dad. I'm doing this one for me. This meal is
Right.
going to be a reflection of me. And he, as a very international person who grew up in Australia, lives in America now, has Malaysian and Hong Kong roots. He wanted
Hmm.
each single course to reflect one of those. I thought that was a really strong concept personally, and I wasn't surprised.
Totally. No, it was a great concept. I think he you could tell he had been thinking about it. He's you can kind of also see where he's grown as a chef since last season through this season, and wanting to kind of put his own spin on things, and show all of what he is, which all of those things that he showed in there still encompassed his family, even though it was, focused on his background and his perspective through these different cultures and cuisines.
On the flip side, Sarah tried to do something similar. She also wanted her food to be a reflection of where she comes from, the foods she gravitates towards. And so she created something that was influenced by Southern food, Creole food, French food, which is a technique she loves, and something very personal to her, which was a dessert that her mom made. Her concept to me was like the perfect personification of her style versus Buddha's. It was basically the same concept, right? It was like, I'm going to put
Hmm.
me and all my cultures that I relate to on a plate. But the way she did it
Yeah.
was less clean cut than Buddha. Like Buddha went
Hmm.
first dish America, second dish Malaysia, third dish Hong Kong, fourth dish Australia. Sarah was
Hmm.
like, I'm just getting in there, sprinkling things of everything everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's going to be me on a plate throughout. But still, relatively strong concept, I thought.
Totally. I think she really stuck true to her roots, what we know her for. And and she kind of incorporated that like more rustic. I hate to call it rustic because it's not, it's still very refined, but it
Yeah,
has these like
humble though.
southern roots to it. Yeah, it's humble and it's like homey. It feels very like, come on over, y'all, and taste this.
Yeah,
I,
like
I I haven't been to Kentucky, but that's my guess of how people act there.
that is. I mean, I think that is definitely Southern hospitality, right?
Yeah.
I got a pot of this stew, and you're gonna come over and have some, whether you like it or not.
Right. Exactly. Very much.
And then Gabri also, his concept was A, the most predictable, and B, the most
Mhm.
straightforward, which was just he was just going Mexican balls to the wall. And
Yeah.
nothing not to like about that. Although it kind of makes you
Hmm.
worry, like, does he have enough direction? Right? Is there enough
Hmm.
specificity here for him to pull something really special out of the bag?
I think his idea to go very humble with the ingredients was a definite, like positive in his menu building there. That was different. It was not, it was refined, but it wasn't like, no, we didn't see any lobster or any, we saw like ground beef and
Grasshoppers.
I don't know. and grasshoppers. Yeah, exactly. So I think, but yeah, we've seen him cook Mexican all season, elevated Mexican food, and it was not surprising that he went that direction for his final meal, of course.
The chefs then, after they've come up with their concepts, head to the kitchen and start the cook. It's a 2-day cook. For all intents and purposes, I thought this was a pretty smooth cook. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, in the finale, tensions are high,
Right.
nerves are sky high, and they're running around the kitchen. Things get dropped, things get messed up. There was one key mistake, which was that Gabri fucked up his beans again. Famously, he
Mm-hmm.
burned his beans and he burned lentils in a previous episode. And
Right. Right.
literally, the one thing he probably did not want to do was burn beans. And all of a sudden, one of the chefs goes, "Hey, is something burning?" Of course, it was the
It's
beans.
Gabri's beans.
Gabri's beans. I want to say he should probably get like some sort of like official sanction from the Mexican government for this, right?
I mean, if you can't cook beans, I don't really know. Can you still be a citizen of Mexico? I don't know the answer to that. It's a question.
It's a question. It's a question. It's a legit question, and I was very worried for him at that point because I was like, okay, if he's fucking up the beans again, what else is he going to screw up on? Um,
Right.
it ended up being pretty smooth. There was no real drama in the
Yeah.
cook. There was a little bit of
I mean,
drama.
with the liver, but that really, we didn't get the drama in there. We got it like right as she was plating of being like, that's undercooked.
Exactly.
Okay.
So one of the like pivotal moments of this episode was Sarah's second course, which was a liver dish, which at the very last
Mhm.
moment of the cook, which was more of the plating, it was the last possible moment, she realizes that her liver is extremely raw. And she has no choice but to serve it in that sense. So yeah, I guess you could say that was a pretty gnarly
That was a
moment in the
big,
cook.
they did seem to like try to throw some drama when they were grocery shopping. I think there
Mhm.
just wasn't drama in this episode. So that was like, oh, are we not going to be able to find lobster? Am I not going to be able to find plantains or whatever? And it was like there was, but then it's Paris. They had everything. They
Yeah.
just went somewhere else.
It's true. I was looking for the little seeds of drama along the way. There was one moment
Uh,
where Gabri is running Tom through the menu, and
uh,
Gabri and Tom goes, "Oh, it's fine. You can just use agar agar for that to thicken."
I remember that. Yeah.
And if you know anything about Top Chef, those kinds of like thickening agents, whether it's xanthan gum or agar
Gums
agar,
and right.
they always
Not a,
backfire.
right.
I was like,
Yeah.
"This is gonna be we're gonna come back to this," and we didn't. We didn't actually.
It never brought it up again. Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about before we get to the service, and we'll also talk through all the menu dishes in that portion.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts about past seasons is the last night before service. There's this like really special moment where the chefs get together in a random location. And they used to make it like dramatic, like, oh, is there going to be a last minute challenge or a last minute wrench? But really, what it
Hmm.
was they would show up to like wherever Tom was staying and he would cook them all like a gorgeous meal. And they'd all sit
Right.
around, a fire with Padma and Gail. And they would like, get drunk and, have fun. This time they
Yeah.
didn't do that. They didn't have a Tom cook. They went to the restaurant Marsan by Hélène de Rose, who is the French Tom Colicchio, basically, in terms of
Hmm.
being a Top Chef judge. I gotta say, I missed the Tom cook. I'm sure the food was really good, but that special moment, just I found myself longing for it.
A little bit missing it. I don't know. I didn't have that same feeling. What I felt about that moment was like, this is a really special scene. I just felt, and especially knowing, and I know we're gonna, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but like knowing that Padma's leaving now, and
Hmm.
knowing that, you know, um, knowing how big this season was in terms of, the All Star season or whatever. Uh, it just felt, I don't know, it didn't bother me, especially because it wasn't really that chef like was with she was presenting the dishes, but she wasn't like dining at the table with them. So it was still just really them.
Yeah.
But I do know what you mean, because I do love those scenes where Tom's cooking and it's very like homey and
I think maybe the fundamental flaw is just I have too much emotional reliance upon this show, which you do not have. So this
I
may
have that
just
with other
be
things.
yeah. Like the Daniel Bocce bowl.
Yeah.
This may be this may just be a me problem, is what I'm learning. Um, Look, let's get to the part that everybody's waiting for, which is the service. We're going to run through the dishes at each course. So the service was done
Mhm.
at a sick palatial French restaurant. The judges there was like the head of Michelin there. There was all the like
Mhm.
epic chefs like Marcus Samuelson, who's like still
Mhm.
dressing like Pharrell in 2013. There's
Yes.
Claire Smith, where they had restaurant wars at her restaurant in London. There was just
Uh,
a who's who of culinary giants that maybe like the layperson doesn't know, but it's the type of people that like Buddha absolutely worships and has a shrine
right.
to back at his overpriced New York
Yeah.
apartment.
Just
So,
I can totally see that he has that shrine. Like he
oh,
probably has a whole room.
that shrine exists, and I don't want to know what happens in that shrine. I just don't.
I just can
Um,
see everything.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Don't see too much. You don't want to see too much.
No,
Okay,
just enough.
just enough. We're moving on. First course. First
Yeah.
course. It's time to get served. So Sarah, for her first course, did a take on couvillon, which is a southern, I believe, a French Creole shellfish dish. She kind
Mhm.
of made it her own in that she did a crudo with it instead of cooking the fish. Um,
Mhm.
there was a little bit of drama with this dish because she made like a tomato water that was initially extremely spicy, but it
Yeah.
mellowed out before they served it, and that turned out okay.
Right.
Gabri's first dish was a take on esquites, the popular Mexican street corn, basically. And he added huitlacoche puree and made this like grasshopper tostada with it. So it was just like screaming Mexico, right?
Mhm.
First dish for Buddha was a rainbow trout with a clam velouté, which was supposed to be a take on clam chowder, hearkening to his sort of like American parts of his cultural affinities. Any first initial takes on the dishes when they came out?
I mean, they all looked beautiful. They really all had their own, their own beauty to them. I think the thing that I was most surprised with myself by was going like, because I've always sworn I'll eat anything, I just won't eat bugs, you know? And I was like, nah, I'd eat that. I would put that in my mouth for sure.
Well,
So,
funnily enough, that was the one thing they took issue with during this course. They took issue. They loved all of the dishes, but the judges thought that the grasshopper tostada was a little too thick and a little on
mhm,
the overcooked side. So,
right. That's
but
true.
besides that, this was pretty much a flawless course.
Yeah, it really, I thought Buddha's take on the clam chowder, it was so beautiful, gorgeous.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even remember everything that was in it, but it just, yeah, it sounded amazing.
So, based on the judging, who do you think won this round?
It seems like it was between Sarah and Buddha, leaning Buddha. Their one critique basically was the lack of acid in the dish, but it
Yeah,
didn't seem. It kind of seemed like their critique was like, if you were to tweak it, this is like the first try, the second try, you had a little more acid. It was kind of like easy fix kind of thing.
yeah, and that's why I think actually Sarah edged the first round because there weren't
Mm,
any critiques of her dish, and
that's true. Yeah.
I think it was Gail who during judges table said that if she were to have to go back and have one of those first courses again, she would have had Sarah's again. So to
That's right.
me,
She did say that.
I think it was a really, really close round, but I think Sarah took that one by a hair personally.
I like that. I can see that for sure.
I like that you agree because this is really gonna, show you why I'm so pissed at the final result, because so we can agree Sarah took the first round by a hair.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, by a hair. Yeah.
By a hair. Okay. Second
Yeah.
course, we're moving on to the second course. We've got a really special dish from Buddha, which was a blue lobster with squash and curry bisque. It's basically a take on a classic Malaysian dish.
Mm-hmm.
Gabri went with, he kept calling this thing empanada, but he also called it a ravioli at some point. But basically, he made a dough with the sweet potato and
Mm-hmm.
called it a sweet potato empanada. And there was pasilla chili used. There was a black bean puree. And the judges really liked the flavors of this one. And finally,
Mm-hmm.
this was the moment where Sarah pulled out her liver. Not literally, but honestly, the liver
Pretty
inside her
close.
body, yeah, pretty close. The liver inside her body was probably just as cooked as the one she served on the plates.
Yes.
The dish sounded weird to me to begin with. She was serving a veal
Mm-hmm.
liver and onions with cookie butter
Mm-hmm.
and figs.
Yeah, I couldn't wrap my mind around what the cookie butter was supposed to, because all I've tried is the cookie butter from Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't work. Is that what we're talking about?
I mean, I think it is traditional to serve liver with some sweet elements, but I was like, oh yeah, it
Uh-huh.
makes sense. A sweet thing next to the liver. But then she's like figs as
Yeah.
well, and I was like, now you lost me. I was like,
Yeah.
one sweet
Yeah.
thing maybe, but two,
Yeah.
you lost me.
Well, wasn't she looking for sweetbread during that? Because, like, I
Yes,
thought that she mentioned that early and then she asked about it at the shop. So did she pivot or was that always her plan?
that is a great question. I think she kept the same concept of the dish, but instead of
Mhm.
sweetbreads, used veal liver because that's what was available at the store. So
Got it.
maybe that played a part into, how she
Yeah,
executed the
maybe.
dish.
Yeah. Huh. Well, yeah. I mean, regardless, she didn't cook the meat. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Safe to say that Sarah lost this round by a lot.
I also think she lost it and the hair that she had was taken away on the last round. Like, that's how bad she lost this round, in my
Yeah.
personal opinion.
It was it was it was yeah, this was the kind of error that unfortunately you cannot come back from.
No.
And
There needs to be an equal error on other people's parts
yeah, 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 yeah.
to recover from that.
And I think Buddha maybe edged out Gabri on this one because while they
Mhm.
really liked Gabri's empanada raviolo thing, they also said it kind of was one texture.
One
It was all
texture, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of soft
There
all
was, I
around.
think, one note of that there was too much cheese sauce or something that he used.
The other critique was also for Buddha. They
Mhm.
called his curry. Someone called his curry dense, and at that point, I was like,
Mhm.
"Ooh, that's a check mark against." But then Padma comes in
Yeah.
and says
But
the
Padma comes,
curry.
yeah.
She's like, the curry was luscious, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah. Whoever
Curry
said it was
safe.
dense, can go fuck himself, because if Padma likes it, that's all that matters, right?
That's all that matters. That's all we care about.
It's all we care about. So for that reason, I think second round goes to Buddha with Sarah losing a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. We're right on the same page there.
right on the same page. Okay. Third course, what we have going on here is Buddha trots out a Hong Kong dish called Nao Lam with it's basically a dish where you use like every part of the lamb. He serves
Wow.
it with roasted eggplant and a lamb croquette. It's braised in oyster stock, which has a very special meaning for him because his dad's restaurant basically has this like oyster stock that's older than Buddha is, which makes me think like
Mhm.
y'all should maybe consider getting a new stock. But it's I'm not the chef.
I really had a lot
Yeah,
of thoughts there. I was like,
yeah.
do we clean the pan or the pot
I'm
or
like I'm like the Australian equivalent of like the restaurant inspection people are really slacking here.
yeah.
Um, but that was supposed to be an ode to his Hong Kong roots and to his dad's Hong
Yeah.
Kong roots critically, right? And
Right.
Gabri, third course, he makes the Mexican national dish, but like a kind of like wacky version of it, chile en nogada.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then Sarah brings out burgoo, which is apparently the Kentuckian version of gumbo, and she serves it with like a bunch of little accoutrements, like a boudin, like the sort of like the blood sausage pudding thing,
Mm-hmm.
and a cornbread madeleine, which is supposed to be crumbled into the gumbo. All of these dishes were extremely successful, even though chile en nogada, which everybody kind of like raised an eyebrow when they ate it. They were like, these are wacky flavors, but we're into it. Um,
Yeah.
no, really, there were really no negatives about this course.
Mm-mm. None at all. I mean, it's really hard to say who who had the best dish, or I mean, without tasting it, obviously, but just going off their reactions from it. It was everyone executed what they meant to, and it seemed to be successful.
Yeah, the moment where I was like, "Ooh, Buddha might not win this," is the way they were talking about his dish. Is they kept calling it elegant, proficient, well executed and stuff.
Technique. Yeah, yeah.
Technique, right? But they never talked about like its soul. Like when they talked about the
Mm-hmm.
other dishes, they really felt like the heart came through on the other dishes. And so for a moment there, I was thinking, "Oh, is Buddha going to be too perfect to win this?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?"
Right.
On judges table, I felt like I tried to find the tiniest little like indications that someone did better than somebody else, but I think it's a tie. I think it was a tie.
Yeah. My early inclination during the actual meal, when Tom said something about Gavri's Gabri. I always say Gavri or Gabri. I can't. It's Gabri with a B.
But yeah.
But I think sometimes it sounds like it's with a V when he says it. So I'm like, okay, that was a total side note. But Tom said something about how he didn't know how to place it, but he really liked it, or something like that. And I was like, well, it sounds like this dish was really surprising to
Yeah.
these judges, and so I thought that might bode well for him. Um, just based on doing something they didn't know they liked, and they didn't even know how to put it together, essentially.
Yeah, there were also, I think, like at least one Mexican judge at the table, maybe two,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
they really liked the dish. And so that,
Yes.
that I can see why you might have like thought, okay, well actually Gabri with a B might be
Yeah.
edging this one out, but ultimately I just don't think there was enough to separate them there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
at this point, we're going into the fourth course, and we
Mm-hmm.
agree Sarah won the first round by a hair.
By
Um,
hair.
Buddha won over Gabri by a hair in the second round, but Sarah
Mm-hmm.
lost by a lot. And the third
Mm-hmm.
one, it's a complete tie. So
Effectively a tie. Yeah.
so Buddha is on aggregate ahead by a hair over Gabri here.
Yes.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting because the dessert
Mm-hmm.
course was one of the best dessert courses I can remember in Top Chef history. In fact, I
Same.
think I think a lot of times not even everybody does dessert for the fourth course
They
because
skip them. Yeah, a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. And here everybody did one, right?
Mm-hmm. Everyone. Yeah.
So Buddha trotted out a lamington, which is a traditional Australian like cake that's covered in chocolate and rolled in coconut. He served it with like a raspberry type accompaniment.
Mm-hmm.
Gabri made a chocolate tamal, which looked really good. He served it with some sort of like goat cheese concoction, so really elevated it. And
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, when she first mentioned what she was making, I was like, I'm out. I'm out on Sarah.
Same.
I don't care that she's my only remaining contestant in Fantasy Top Chef. I'm out. She was making a cake with English peas. Apparently, it's a family recipe, something that her mom would make when her mom was helping her out with the desserts at her restaurant. She served it with a buttermilk sorbet and some lemon curd. I mean, this was an incredible round in that the judges loved absolutely everything, but they adored the pea cake.
Yes, that was by far their favorite.
Who said it was the favorite thing they ate all day? Was it Padma?
I think it was Padma. Yeah,
That's huge. That's high
it's
praise.
huge. Yeah, and she cried when she talked about it. Kind of. I think I've ever seen that.
No,
Has she cried
no,
before?
I'm sure she's teared up at some point during Top Chef,
Probably.
but I think,
Yeah.
do you think that was maybe an early indication that she knew that this was going to be her last?
Yeah, I do think so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It was clear she was touched by something, whether it was that she knew she was leaving or the growth of the chefs. I don't know, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that touched me honestly.
It was touching.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, based on the fact that Padma cried and that she said it was the best thing she ate all night,
hmm
I think it's safe to say Sarah won that round, right?
yeah. The only thing I will say is I kind of feel, and I don't know that we got this for sure, but I think Gail's favorite was Buddha's because
Okay.
she had a lot of praise for that. She praised it at the table when they were eating and at judges' table. So
Yeah, but the way she praised it, if I recall, at the dinner was she said, "Ooh, chocolate and coconut. It's a great
that's true.
combination." And
Yeah.
I could have given her like a Bounty bar, or an Almond Joy, and maybe she would have
hmm
said the same thing, right?
She might
So
have said the exact same thing. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe it has
We don't
nothing to
know.
do with it. But
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that, it was the pea cake, which, as disgusting as that sounds, I guess, it won that
and
round.
it must be really disgusting if you can't get on board, and I know you have like British heritage, and that's like your
Never
national
heard of
food.
that, but
Yeah, but it's like peas, that's like your thing, right? Like
I
peas and
love
mash.
peas, or like a
Yeah.
mushy peas with my fish and chips, but I don't want it in a cake. I want cake in a cake,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a fair assessment.
you know?
So, recapping the judging,
hmm
Sarah won round 1 by a hair. Sarah lost round 2 by a lot, but Buddha maybe won by a hair over Gabri. Round 3 was a tie, and Sarah won
hmm
dessert. Now the thing,
hmm
so we know how this ends. Buddha won, right?
hmm
But and I have to say, based on our assessment, I think that's fair because
Yeah.
Sarah may have won round 1 by a hair and she may have won dessert, but the fact that she lost round 2 by a lot,
Like, they
and
couldn't even eat it. That's
exactly,
yeah, yeah.
she was
I
never
think she
gonna.
would've won had that meal been successful.
And that is why I am so annoyed. So she is my only remaining contestant this entire season. I have been like completely screwed by the Top Chef gods. And
Mhm.
tonight I really felt like I had it in the bag if it wasn't for that liver.
It's a true bummer. I mean, I'm sure she's beating herself up more than you're beating yourself up, but I understand.
I don't know.
It's Yeah, you have to come on here and admit to it. So that is
Face the
tough.
music. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. She
that's
just
really
gets to
tough.
go home.
So does
Yeah,
that mean
man.
Father
Well,
Saul won?
oh, Father Saul had won by a lot, like even before
Oh,
this
like
episode,
okay,
but
okay.
he was a runaway winner, but I at
Mm.
least could have had the bragging rights of, but I got the champion. I don't even get that,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry.
Hey, what are you doing next season? I'm thinking of getting a new partner for Fantasy Top Chef.
I'm all in. I was just gonna say I want to be a part of this. I love fantasy and I love Top Chef. So
We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna get you back for the
sounds
draft.
great.
This was
Please,
mostly me just being a sore loser against Father Saul, but absolutely we'll get you in.
I'm down. I'm so down.
So look, I want to end on the note of what it was like to see Padma for the last time. We heard like last Friday, I think it was, that she will not be returning to the show. She's done 20 seasons.
Yeah.
She's packing her knives and she's leaving.
hmm
I mean, there was a lot of emotion in this episode. She teared up. They showed her
Yeah.
giving a little speech at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It hit my emotions. How did it make you feel?
Same. Yeah. I love her, and she is such a force on that show. And honestly, I think she's grown through that. We've seen her grow through that show, not only as a as a human, but as a host with her level of confidence, and also as just someone who knows food. And I think there was never like I kind of remember, and because I didn't really get into Top Chef till like 2016, so I was like binging all the seasons like at once. And I remember
Yeah.
thinking, like, does Padma even know what she's talking about? Or are they rolling her eyes at her?
Well,
Like I never knew.
it's a good question because I could be wrong, but I think when she started, she was the presenter, but not a judge.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then she made her way to the judges table. So,
Right.
I do definitely think, I mean, look, I think they've all grown over the
Yeah.
course of 20 seasons, but certainly I think
Totally.
Padma has become like such a force in the world of food. And I'm not sure that she even would have wanted that when she
Right.
got into this, right? It may have
Right.
just been like a good check.
A good
Um,
gig. Yeah. Because she was kind of working as a model, and
yeah,
you get a good gig, and it's a good gig, and then all of a sudden, and maybe I'm sure she was passionate about food.
yeah. And that's
Because
clear. If you've seen Taste the Nation on Hulu, her show, um,
yeah.
really great show, but she has like a whole episode on sort of her upbringing with food and her mom's cooking and stuff. So,
Oh, I gotta watch that one.
oh, it's good, man. Highly
Cool.
recommend. And now that's the only way to get Padma in your life. So
Sad, sad,
sad,
sad, sad.
sad. Daniel, any final thoughts? I've kept you till 11 p.m. Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah, of course. No, I'm glad to do this. It was a great season. I'm happy that Buddha won. I'm just happy that that now we have kind of like this new canon of Top Chef chef stars, and I hope that we do this again where there's a world
All
all-star
stars.
version. Yeah.
Yeah,
I hope that that's a thing.
I think it has to be based on how good this season was. It has to
Hmm.
be. Dude,
Yeah,
thank you so much. I
of
am,
course.
let's get together over some Daniel Bocce Bowls. What do you think?
Let's do it. I'm down.
For those who live under a rock, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram or TikTok, Forking Around TV, on either of those places.
Anything you want to plug? Anything you got going on? Any competitions, pizza competitions, burrito
I'm doing
competitions?
the pizza competition ended in Orange County, and now we're just doing the breakfast burrito in LA competition right now. But I'm taking my sweet time with that one. So,
Have you been
because
to Los Feliz Cafe?
I have, yeah, it was
Okay.
I loved that one.
All right. I got some more
Definitely.
recommendations for you, so we'll have to chat.
Please send them my way. I'm looking for the best breakfast burrito in LA for sure.
All right. Well, we know it's not Koufax.
We know that one. That one's out of the running.
Daniel, thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
You can now pack your knives and leave.
For the people on the podcast,
Yeah.
I was packing my knives.
He was mimicking packing his knives. Thanks, man.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to our guest, Daniel Wargo, for joining us for this insanely late night recording. I know that I'm definitely going to go get myself a Daniel Bocce Bowl, and I think you should do the same. If you like what you heard today, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a rating, a review, subscribe if you should be so inclined. We'll be back next week with a full postmortem. If you're looking for me in the meantime, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at the LA Countdown. That's TheLaCountdown. You can also find me at the LA Food Pod on Instagram. That's LAFOODPOD. Damn, I'm good at spelling.